This is day 3 of our Transylvanian extension, which is part of Viking's European Sojourn tour. Today we went to the town of Sighisoara as part of our Transylvanian highlights excursion. Sighisoara is a medieval walled town. It's about a 2-hour drive west and north of Brasov. And it happens to be the home or former home of the father of Vlad the Impaler. His name was Vlad Dracul. And I guess in Romanian, the translation for Dracula would be the son of Dracul or Dracula. So in his father's house is where we had dinner, or I should say lunch. So after we got off our bus, we walked up this steep hill. It was only about a 10-minute walk at most, and if you felt that you couldn't do it, Viking arranged transportation up the hill. You could take a small little shuttle. They had several of these. We went into the town for a tour of the old city, just a bit of a walkabout, and then went to Vlad Dracul's former home, and that's where we had lunch. Following lunch, we had some time to tour on our own. They have a famous clock tower there and some more battlements or town walls, and we wanted to see those. So later on this visit, you'll see all of that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please like and subscribe.
Of course, with it's beautiful. It's a good drive. It's about 4 hours out of the city. No, it's actually the main square of the citadel. Car coming, please. Here on the right side, the top of the 170 stairs going up onto the hill.
So after passing through the fortifications, and you saw the big iron gate built right into those fortifications, we started to walk to the restaurant. And on the way there, we could see the clock tower. And on top of the clock tower, they have these 4 turrets on the 4 corners. And that means that this particular city had what they call the power of the sword, meaning that they were a bit autonomous in their government, and they had the right to execute people they felt that needed execution. And that's what you see here on the clock tower.
The place where actually his father was follow me.
So Vlad the Impaler, his father's name was Vlad Dracul, and this is his home, which they've converted into a restaurant. And Vlad the Impaler would have lived here as well, or at least visited it. So we're here to have our lunch. I guess it's going to be some sort of traditional Romanian meal.
That's worse than working up here. I don't know.
On the left side. We're doing the sentences going on. These two.
Right here?
join us. On the left side. With the, yes, the tables with the bread on and the bottom.
So we had a very tasty meal. It started off with chicken soup, and then they gave us some polenta with a beef, or I should say pork, sausage type stew on top. That was actually very, very good. And the soup, I would say, was excellent. During the meal, our guide explained the history of the house and the history of the relationship between Count Dracula, or I should say Vlad the Impaler, and Count Dracul, otherwise known as Vlad Dracul. And as you can see here, we had some gelato for dessert. One of the interesting artifacts in the restaurant is this picture or painting here. It's original that was on the wall of the building, which they removed some plaster and discovered. So we exited the restaurant after lunch, walked past what they call the White Church, and we headed over to a statue of Vlad the Impaler's head. Apparently, once he assumed power, the Ottoman Turks weren't actually overly pleased with him. So once he was back in power, they captured him and they cut off his head. One of the things they didn't like about him is that he had multiple battles or wars with the Ottoman Turks, and one of the things that he did was to humiliate them. Instead of killing them with a sword, he actually impaled them, and that, I guess, is one of the worst things you can do. It's quite an insult, and the Ottoman Turks weren't too pleased with it, so once they got a hold of him, they decided to cut off his head. So we had an opportunity to walk the citadel walls, and from the citadel walls you had a great view of the city itself. Quite attractive and very interesting to see all the tile roofs. From here we headed over to the clock tower to learn a little bit about its history.
Justice has to be equal.
So the clock tower is part of the fortifications for the citadel. You can see how thick the walls are. Seem to be about 10-15 meters to just get through it. And there was a couple sections of the wall. So after our discussion about the clock tower, my wife and I just decided to break away from the group, and we wandered around the rest of the city. We had about 45 minutes before we had to start going back and catching our bus.
Are these really walking shoes?
Wow, look at this side, Nicole.
So we were told that the clock tower actually works, and these marionettes perform different functions, but at this time they were doing some maintenance and repairs, so everything was shut down.
Take a picture from here.
Really interesting.
Just absolutely gorgeous. Love the colors and the history here. This fortress was built, I believe, in the 1400s, between 1300 and 1600s. Therefore, it's a medieval fortified city. just fascinating to walk around and observe the buildings. They seem to be in pretty great shape, so obviously they've had a lot of restoration. Just fun to see. So we had a little bit of time before we left to catch our bus, and there's a church on top of one of the hills here. And to get there, they had this covered walkway. It was probably a good 300 meters long to get to the top. We didn't go into the church because time was running a little bit fast for us, and we needed to catch that bus. But just fun times to come up and see this covered walkway. I don't know if this was the original design. I suspect so. Obviously, the covered walkway isn't that old, being made out of wood, but I think they were trying to just represent or reproduce the history. So this is coming back down from the church, and I'm going back into the covered walkway. Well, we elected to walk back down the hill to catch our bus, but some of our colleagues decided that they would rather take this tour train, and Viking arranged to get them down to the bus that way. If you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe.